first flight of the Wright Flyer 3. In 1908, the Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur, made significant advancements in aviation with their improved Wright Flyer 3. This model was more stable and capable of longer, sustained flights than their earlier planes. In May, Orville conducted demonstration flights for the U.S. Army at Fort Myer, Virginia, showcasing the military potential of airplanes. Meanwhile, Wilbur wowed crowds in France, proving that powered flight was not just a fleeting novelty but a technology with practical applications. Their successes in 1908 marked a turning point in aviation, as governments and industries began to take aviation seriously as a new form of transportation and military strategy. Launch of the Ford Model T, 1908. In October 1908, Henry Ford introduced the Model T, which revolutionized the automobile industry. Unlike previous cars, the Model T was affordable for the average American, thanks to Ford's implementation of assembly line production. Priced initially at $850, and later even cheaper, the Model T made cars accessible to the middle class, transforming American society by encouraging urbanization and the growth of suburbs. The introduction of this car also fueled the rise of road infrastructure, service stations, and motels, and helped solidify the U.S. as a leader in industrial innovation. Election of William Howard Taft, 1908. In the presidential election of 1908, William Howard Taft, handpicked by outgoing President Theodore Roosevelt, won the presidency. Taft, a Republican, defeated Democrat William Jennings Bryan, continuing Roosevelt's progressive agenda, though with a more cautious approach. Taft's victory represented a continuation of trust-busting policies, antitrust legislation, and government regulation of commerce. Though Taft would later clash with his predecessor, his election marked the continuation of the progressive-era reforms that aimed to regulate big business, protect consumers, and promote fairness in the economy. Conference of Governors on Conservation, 1908. President Theodore Roosevelt convened the first Conference of Governors at the White House, focusing on the conservation of the nation's natural resources. This conference was a landmark event in the emerging environmental movement in the U.S., bringing together state governors, scientists, and experts to discuss how to preserve forests, water, and other critical natural resources. Roosevelt, a strong advocate for conservation, had already established national parks, forests, and wildlife reserves, and this conference underscored the importance of managing these resources sustainably. The conference helped raise public awareness about environmental issues and laid the groundwork for future conservation policies, including the creation of organizations like the U.S. Forest Service. Pittsburgh Industrial Exposition, 1908. The Pittsburgh Industrial Exposition of 1908 was a major showcase of America's industrial might. Pittsburgh, known as the Steel City, was at the heart of the nation's booming steel industry, and this event celebrated technological advancements in steel production, electricity, and manufacturing. The exposition featured new machinery, innovations in electrical power, and demonstrations of industrial techniques that were revolutionizing American production. It attracted business leaders, engineers, and the public, highlighting the rapid growth of industrial America. The exposition symbolized the technological progress that was making the U.S. a global industrial leader, particularly in steel, which was critical for infrastructure, construction, and transportation. Establishment of the FBI, then Bureau of Investigation, 1908. The U.S. Department of Justice established a small investigative unit that would later become the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. Initially called the Bureau of Investigation, it was created to handle cases that required specialized investigative skills, including violations of federal laws related to banking, land fraud, and corruption. President Theodore Roosevelt's administration saw the need for a more organized, professional approach to law enforcement, especially as the U.S. faced growing internal challenges from organized crime and interstate criminal activities. The Bureau started with just a few agents, but it quickly expanded in scope and authority, eventually becoming one of the most powerful federal law enforcement agencies in the country. The creation of this bureau marked the beginning of modern federal law enforcement in the U.S. The New York to Paris Auto Race, 1908. The New York to Paris Auto Race of 1908 was a remarkable international competition that began in February in Times Square and covered over 22,000 miles. It was the first global automobile race, involving 6 teams from different countries, including the US, Germany, France, and Italy. The race was a grueling test of endurance and mechanical reliability, as drivers crossed the US, sailed across the Pacific, and then drove through Asia and Europe. The American team, driving a Thomas Flyer, ultimately won the race, solidifying the reputation of American automotive engineering and endurance. This event highlighted the growing importance and fascination with automobiles as a mode of transportation and a symbol of modern technology. The rise of college football. In 1908, college football was rapidly growing in popularity across the United States, with major universities attracting large crowds to their games. Football was becoming an important cultural and social event, particularly in the northeastern and midwestern parts of the country. Major universities such as Yale, Harvard, and Princeton were establishing rivalries that drew significant public attention, helping to elevate the sport's national profile. Despite concerns about the violence and safety of the sport, football had a reputation for serious injuries. It continued to grow, laying the foundation for what would become one of the most popular sports in the U.S. The organization of the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association, just a few years earlier also played a key role in formalizing rules and ensuring player safety.